ladies and gentlemen. Imagine waking up at 70, staring at the mirror, and realizing that life didn't end, it just got louder, lonelier, and more uncertain. Now ask yourself, what if happiness wasn't about adding more, but removing what's quietly destroying your joy? Most people drag into old age carrying the emotional luggage of decades, regret, resentment, guilt, useless obligations, yet no one dares to ask, what can I let go of today to actually feel free? You see, we've been lied to. We're told aging is a decline. But what if it's your most powerful era waiting to be unleashed, once you subtract the 8 toxic anchors stealing your peace? And no, I'm not going to say, just think positive. This isn't about wishful thinking. It's about surgical decisions, the kind that hurt before they heal. Some of what you're holding on to might be the very reason you're feeling tired, bitter, or stuck. Ever wondered why some people become radiant at 75, while others seem like they've already died inside? Stick around, because by the end of this, one of these 8 removals might punch you in the gut and save your soul. At 70, you've seen enough of life to know that time is the most precious currency, and yet so many continue to spend it on relationships that bring nothing but exhaustion, confusion, and emotional chaos. These are the relationships that don't build you, they break you down in slow, subtle ways. They leave you second-guessing yourself, questioning your worth, and draining the last reserves of emotional energy you've carefully preserved through a lifetime of experiences. Sometimes it's not about who's right or wrong, it's about who's right for your peace. And at this stage, peace isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. We don't always recognize toxicity right away, especially when it hides behind a familiar face. It can be a sibling who constantly reminds you of your mistakes, a friend who only calls when they need something, a partner whose presence feels heavier than their absence. These relationships don't show up with warning signs or loud alarms. They creep in quietly, masked as loyalty, obligation, or tradition. They remind you of the past, yes, but not the parts you want to remember. Instead of love, they recycle guilt. Instead of comfort, they serve you fear. And yet, we keep them close out of habit, out of duty, out of fear that walking away might make us appear cold or ungrateful. But think about it, how many moments of your life have been swallowed by arguments, tension, or anxiety caused by people who never intended to change? How many days have you felt heavy, not because of your body aging, but because of the weight of toxic emotional connections you never dropped? We don't owe anyone permanent space in our lives just because they've been in our story for a long time. Time served is not the same as value added. Emotional health, especially in your later years, demands ruthless clarity: who fills your cup and who pokes holes in it. It might be uncomfortable at first. Walking away from someone you've known for decades isn't easy. The fear of loneliness is real, but ask yourself, is it truly loneliness if you're finally surrounded by peace? Or have we just confused chaos with companionship? Emotional vampires don't look like monsters. They look like people who say, "I love you," right before tearing your confidence apart. They appear in conversations that sound caring but feel condescending. And the worst part? Sometimes we keep trying to fix the relationship, thinking it's broken. But what if it's not broken? What if it's just done? Letting go isn't about revenge or punishment. It's about reclaiming space. Emotional space. Mental space. The kind of space that allows you to enjoy a morning without dread, a phone call without anxiety, a family dinner without tension. You deserve to laugh without watching your words, to speak without walking on eggshells. The kind of love you need now is one that asks nothing of you but your presence. You've spent enough years proving, explaining, apologizing. Now is the time to just be. And here's something few will say aloud. Sometimes the toxic relationship is not dramatic, it's quiet. It's the passive-aggressive tone, the lack of support, the emotional indifference, the constant subtle invalidation of your dreams, your joys, your struggles. These things chip away at your soul slowly. You don't realize it until one day you wake up feeling heavy, lost, and tired, and you can't figure out why. That's when it hits you. The company you keep shapes your internal weather. If you're always under clouds, you have to ask who's standing beside you holding the umbrella. There's no medal for tolerating pain in the name of family, friendship, or history. You don't get extra years for holding in your tears or clenching your jaw every time someone disrespects your boundaries. What you do get is a shorter fuse, a restless heart, and a life that doesn't feel like it belongs to you anymore. Is that how you want to spend your 70s? Managing the emotions of others while your own needs go unmet? You might worry, what if they get angry? What if they don't understand? The truth is they probably will, but that's not your burden to carry anymore. Your job is no longer to make everyone else comfortable at the cost of your well-being. Your job is to protect your inner world, because once that goes, everything else crumbles with it. At 70, you have the power of perspective. You've earned the right to protect your time, your heart, and your energy like the sacred resources they are. So ask yourself with brutal honesty, who makes you feel lighter after a conversation, and who makes you feel smaller? Who energizes you, and who leaves you emotionally bankrupt? Whose presence gives you clarity, and whose presence makes you doubt your worth? If someone's words echo in your mind long after they're gone, and not in a good way, you owe it to yourself to pause, reflect, and possibly walk away. This isn't selfish. It's survival, emotional survival. And in many ways, that's the most important kind there is. There comes a point in life, often after 70, when a quiet fear begins to creep in, not of death, but of fading into the background, of becoming invisible in a world that once turned to you for answers, guidance, or support. The fear of being irrelevant, of being forgotten, is a deep and unspoken pain that sits in the heart like a weight. You once had a role, a career, a title, a purpose that tethered you to the world. People needed you, depended on you, looked up to you. But now, with children grown, colleagues retired, and the pace of the world accelerating without you, it can feel like you've been pushed to the sidelines of your own story. But here's the truth. Relevance is not a job description, and legacy is not measured by how many people remember your name. The fear of irrelevance is a trick of the ego, a cruel illusion built on the belief that your value lies in your utility. It doesn't. You are not a machine whose worth is based on output. You are a being whose wisdom, presence, and experience hold intrinsic value. And yet, society doesn't help much. We celebrate youth, innovation, speed. We reward the loudest voices, the newest ideas, the trendiest movements. But none of those things have the depth of a life fully lived. It's easy to feel like you're disappearing when the world moves on without asking for your permission. Technology advances, language evolves, even your own family starts speaking in a rhythm that feels foreign. But irrelevance isn't about what others do, it's about what you believe. If you believe that your story ended when you stopped working, or when your children moved out, or when your health declined, then yes, that belief becomes a lens through which you see everything else. But if you realize that your worth never came from being needed, it came from being you, you begin to reclaim your sense of place in this world. The fear of being forgotten is often rooted in the idea that what we've done doesn't matter anymore. That the memories we carry, the lessons we've learned, and the love we've given will vanish when we do. But legacy isn't a statue or a plaque or a name etched into history. It's the way your presence lingers in the lives you've touched. It's the comfort in someone's voice that sounds a little like yours. It's the recipe they still cook because you made it with love. It's the advice they remember at just the right time, even if they forget who said it. You might not be the center of the story anymore, but you are still in it. And your role now is no less vital. You carry the quiet courage of someone who has seen decades of change and survived. You carry the subtle confidence of someone who knows that storms pass, that loss heals, and that joy returns. That wisdom unspoken but deeply felt is what gives you relevance. Not social media followers, not invitations, not status. And sometimes we feed this fear by comparing ourselves to younger generations. We wonder if they're smarter, faster, more talented. We wonder if we've been replaced. But comparison is a thief. It robs you of your peace, your pride, and your presence. They are not ahead of you. They are simply at a different mile marker on the same road. You've been where they are, and one day they will be where you are. What you carry now is not competition, it's perspective. That is powerful, and it's something no one can take from you. We also fear being forgotten because we fear disappearing without a sound. We want to matter, to make a dent in the universe. But sometimes the most lasting impact is not loud, it's quiet. It's in how you made people feel. It's in your steady love. It's in your ability to stay soft in a hard world. That doesn't fade. That isn't forgotten. That lives on in hearts, not headlines. And then there's this strange irony. Sometimes we're so afraid of being irrelevant that we retreat from life ourselves. We stop trying new things. We stop sharing our voice. We silence our stories before anyone else can ignore them. But silence doesn't protect you from being forgotten, it guarantees it. Your relevance is kept alive by your willingness to stay present, to engage, to speak, to create, to share your thoughts, your humor, your curiosity. You don't need a stage to matter. You just need the courage to show up. The real challenge isn't to stay relevant in the eyes of the world, it's to stay relevant to yourself. To wake up with a sense of curiosity, to read, write, call someone, learn something, to prove to your own soul that you're still growing, still living. Because relevance is not external, it's internal. It's the fire inside that says, I'm still here, I still matter, my story isn't done. There's a certain heaviness that settles in the heart with age, not because of what lies ahead, but because of the weight we've been carrying from behind. Regrets have a strange way of living rent-free in our minds, looping old mistakes like a broken record that never stops. They sneak in during quiet moments, revisiting choices we didn't make, words we wish we hadn't said, or opportunities we let pass by. And failures, they don't just come and go. They carve themselves into memory, growing sharper over time if we let them. But here's the truth few are willing to say out loud. Clinging to regret doesn't redeem the past, it only ruins the present. At 70, you've lived through entire eras. You've endured heartbreaks, disappointments, and missteps that seemed life-shattering in the moment. But you're still here. You survived things you once thought would break you. That alone proves something powerful. You are more than your failures, and your regrets do not define the totality of your life. Yet many people allow those regrets to become the lens through which they see themselves. Every joyful moment feels undeserved. Every moment of peace gets interrupted by a whisper that says, remember what you did, and slowly you begin to believe that the past is your prison. But the past is just that, the past. It has no arms. It can't hold you. It can't pull you back unless you invite it in. Regret becomes a habit when we confuse memory with identity. Just because you remember something vividly doesn't mean it still owns you. You are not the person you were then. You are wiser now, stronger, softer in the right places, sharper where it counts. The version of you that made those mistakes didn't have the insight you hold today. So why keep punishing yourself for the decisions made by someone who is still learning? We often believe that replaying our regrets will somehow protect us, that if we think about them enough, we won't repeat them. But what if that's just fear disguising itself as reflection? What if obsessing over failure doesn't make you wiser, just more anxious? Growth comes not from endless self-criticism, but from forgiveness. And forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing not to let the wound keep bleeding. It's about saying, yes, that happened. Yes, I wish it didn't. But I refuse to let that moment steal one more day from me. Holding on to failure is like carrying around a bag of broken glass. It doesn't hurt the past, it only keeps cutting you in the present. And what's even more painful is that most of the regrets we carry are exaggerated in our minds. We assign meaning to them far beyond what they deserve. That one argument you had with your sibling, that business you started and lost, that decision you made out of fear. At the time they felt huge, but step back now. Look at the whole story of your life. Are those moments really the headline, or are they just a few messy chapters in an otherwise beautiful book? There's also this illusion that we're the only ones who failed, that everyone else lived smarter, chose better, hurt fewer people. But everyone you admire has regrets. Everyone you know has failed someone, including themselves. The difference is that some people choose to keep moving, while others sit in the rubble. But here's the irony, many of your failures were actually detours toward something better. You just didn't recognize it at the time. That missed opportunity may have saved you from a trap. That broken relationship may have freed you to discover something deeper. That loss may have taught you a kind of strength that comfort never could. Letting go of regret doesn't mean you're dismissing the consequences. It means you're refusing to let pain dictate your narrative any longer. It means honoring your past by learning from it, not living in it. And when you start to release those regrets, you create room for something else to grow: compassion. Not just for others, but for yourself. You begin to see your life not as a series of errors, but as a journey of evolution. And isn't that what life is really? A constant unfolding where the most beautiful parts often follow the hardest chapters. You don't need to rewrite the past to reclaim your peace. You just need to stop giving it all your energy. Memory is meant to be a guide, not a jailer. The more you cling to regret, the more you deny yourself the possibility of happiness in the now. Because the truth is, regret cannot coexist with presence. When you are fully here in this moment, you realize how much life is still waiting for you. Not in spite of your past, but because of everything you've walked through to get here. There's a quiet kind of suffering that comes from saying yes when your heart is screaming no. And at a certain age, especially after 70, you begin to understand just how much of your life has been shaped by these quiet compromises. The dinners you attended out of guilt, the favors you agreed to when you were already exhausted, the conversations you endured to keep the peace, even when they tore something inside you. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught that being agreeable is a virtue, that saying yes means being kind, generous, likable. But the cost of always accommodating others is often your own inner stillness, your clarity, your joy. And you must begin to ask, is it worth it? You've spent decades serving others, showing up, being responsible, keeping your word, making sacrifices. But now at this stage, your peace is no longer something to casually place on the bargaining table. It's sacred. You've earned it. Not by force, not by dominance, but by surviving the chaos of life and still finding the strength to love, to hope, to move forward. Peace isn't passive. It's power under control. And anything that disturbs that, whether it's a toxic habit, a draining person, or a commitment that weighs on you, must be evaluated with brutal honesty. The problem with constantly saying yes is that it creates a life filled with noise. You end up attending events that mean nothing to you, engaging in conversations that feel hollow, committing to roles you've outgrown. And worse, people start to expect it. They assume your time, your energy, your presence is available on demand because you've trained them to believe it is. But what they don't see is the slow erosion of your spirit. They don't feel the emotional hangover that follows every forced interaction. They don't hear the silence in your mind after another day spent pleasing everyone but yourself. And maybe you're thinking, but what if I disappoint them? Here's the truth: disappointment is a part of life. It's not your job to shield everyone from it. You are not responsible for managing other people's reactions to your boundaries. You are responsible for managing your own well-being. Saying no does not make you rude, cold, or selfish. It makes you aware that time is limited, aware that emotional bandwidth is not infinite. Aware that every yes you give away carelessly steals time from something or someone that actually matters. It takes courage to unlearn the habit of overcommitment. To say, I'm not available, even when you technically are. To say, I'm not interested, even when you fear it may offend. To say, this doesn't feel right, even when others can't understand. But this is the kind of courage that frees you. It opens space in your life for the things that truly matter, for the walks in silence, for the books that feed your soul, for the people who energize you instead of depleting you, for the quiet moments that remind you of who you are beneath the noise. And sometimes the hardest no is to your own habits, the urge to please, to perform, to avoid conflict. These are deeply ingrained patterns, often rooted in childhood, culture, or survival. But the reality is, many of the things you say yes to out of habit no longer align with the person you've become. Growth means letting go of outdated expectations, including your own. It means giving yourself permission to be different now, to want different things, to protect different values. You're not here to play a role in someone else's story anymore. You're here to live yours fully and unapologetically. What you allow will continue. If you allow your peace to be compromised, it will be, not by evil forces, but by familiar obligations that no longer serve you. And it won't happen all at once. It will happen in small, quiet moments. One forced smile. One unspoken resentment. One anxious yes at a time, until your days feel borrowed and your energy stretched too thin. But the moment you begin to say no with intention, you begin to reclaim something priceless, the right to live authentically. There's a unique kind of strength in an older person who knows how to say no without guilt. It's not rebellion, it's wisdom. It's the wisdom of someone who has seen how quickly life passes and chooses not to waste another minute pretending. It's the strength of someone who understands that peace is not found in external approval, but in internal alignment. When your words match your truth, when your choices reflect your values, when your yes is genuine and your no is clear, that is peace, that is freedom, that is the life you've earned.